What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats of every weapon as well as their variants in Infinite Warfare. In today's episode, we're going to be covering the RPR Evo. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so as you probably already know, the RPR Evo has two different modes. Its base mode is an SMG mode where it has a high fire rate and SMG style damage, but if you hold the swap weapon button, it will transform into the assault rifle mode, which has a higher damage but a lower rate of fire. So because this is essentially two guns in one, when I cover the base stats here, I'm going to cover them individually. So let's hop into the SMG mode first. The SMG mode has a damage profile of 30, 23, 19, 16, which is pretty much average for SMGs. It's a little bit on the weaker side though, because it does in fact have a 7-shot kill range, whereas some of the other SMGs only have up to a 6-shot kill range, but it's going to take you between 4 and 7 shots to get a kill. Its rate of fire is 909 rounds per minute, which is the second best out of the base SMGs if we're not talking about variants. It's only beat out by the FHR. Its time to kill ranges from 198 milliseconds up close, all the way up to 396 milliseconds once you get into that 7-shot kill range. So up close it has a very fast time to kill, but that does fade away fairly quickly into a relatively slow time to kill gun. Plus, we are going to be dealing with recoil once you get to those longer ranges, but we'll have a look at that in a little bit. The aim down sight time is standard for SMGs at 230 milliseconds. Our sprint out time is also standard at 150 milliseconds. Reload add time is going to be 1.77 seconds. Movement speed, standard for SMGs at 98%. And our magazine capacity is 32 rounds with a total starting ammo of 96 rounds. Overall, if we're just looking at the SMG mode by itself, it is quite a solid up-close SMG. Once you get to the mid-ranges though, this thing really drops off. But this is where the assault rifle mode comes in. With the assault rifle mode, we get a damage profile of 34-30, which means it's going to be either a 3 to 4 shot kill in core game modes, and it's always going to be a 1-shot kill in hardcore game modes, which is great. Its rate of fire is reduced all the way down to 426 rounds per minute. Keep in mind, this particular value is a hand-tested value at 60 frames per second. This is not a hard-coded stat because there simply aren't any hard-coded stats out there on the internet for this right now, so I did have to hand-test it. So it is subject to a little bit of frame rounding, but it is what you're going to be experiencing at 60 frames per second. This means our time to kill is going to be 282 milliseconds in the 3-shot kill range and 423 milliseconds in the 4-shot kill range. You can see right here, as long as you're in the 3-shot kill range, you get a pretty decent time to kill. It's not super fast by any means, but it's a decent time to kill. Once you get into that 4-shot kill range though, your time to kill is really high. Our aim down sight time changes a little bit when you swap to the assault rifle mode, and now it's standard for assault rifles at 250 milliseconds. Our sprint out time remains the same when you swap to an assault rifle mode. Our reload speed changes a little bit, up to 1.84 seconds. Movement speed actually stays the same when you swap to assault rifle mode, which I really like, so you can still sprint around at the same speed as the SMG mode. And for our magazine capacity as well as total starting ammo, these values don't change when you switch modes. Moving on to our range values, let's first look at the SMG ranges. As you can see here, its 4-shot kill range is about 8 meters, 5-shot kill range is 15 meters, 6-shot kill range is 20 meters, and beyond that's going to be 7 shots to kill. This definitely doesn't stand out as one of the better SMGs when it comes to range, but keep in mind you do have that super fast fire rate, so that definitely makes up for this a little bit. Comparing that to the assault rifle mode, as you can see here, we've got a very solid 3-shot kill potential with the assault rifle mode on the RPR Evo. It looks like our 3-shot kill potential is right around that 30-meter mark. Now adding suppressor as well as rifle barrel into the equation for both of these, you guys can just see for yourself what those ranges are and decide whether or not it's worth it. For me, I will often put a suppressor on my RPR Evo, but then I just have to realize when I'm in assault rifle mode, it does cut down on that range fairly significantly. So I just always make sure if I am using a suppressor, I tend to use the assault rifle mode a little bit more sparingly. Getting into our hipfire, in SMG mode, it's got a standard SMG hipfire, but when you switch it over to the assault rifle mode, it now has more of a standard assault rifle hipfire, and you can see that here. Getting into the headshot multipliers for the RPR Evo, both the SMG mode as well as the assault rifle mode have only a 1.1 times headshot multiplier. This means in SMG mode, that takes our headshot damage profile to a 33, 25, 20, 17. And essentially what that means is headshots are practically useless. Now beyond the standard 4-shot kill range, if you can manage to land every single bullet in the head, then yes, it will reduce the number of shots it takes to kill by 1. But with the SMG mode, especially with that recoil and the rate of fire, This simply isn't practical. It's not going to be happening in games, and therefore headshots are essentially useless on the RPR Evo. As for assault rifle mode, our damage profile jumps up to a 37-33, which even if you're landing every single bullet in the head in core game modes, it's not going to reduce the number of shots it takes to kill. But one thing to keep in mind is within that 30 meters in tactical team deathmatch, this will be a one-shot headshot. So if you happen to be using this gun in tactical TDM and you're in the assault rifle mode, aim for the head when you're within 30 meters, you'll get a one-shot kill. Getting into the recoil of the RPR Evo, first up we have the SMG mode, as you can see here. And with the SMG mode, you get a very high vertical recoil with very little side-to-side kick. This means the recoil is pretty predictable in SMG mode, but at the same time it is also quite high, so challenging people at longer ranges isn't the best idea in SMG mode, but that's what your assault rifle mode is for. And in the assault rifle mode, as you can see, it does jump around a little bit within a relatively small area, so I would compare it somewhat to the Volk where it's kind of unpredictable. It does kick left and right a little bit, but overall it's relatively low recoil, even at the somewhat longer ranges. Just to take it one step further, here is my 10-round recoil plot for the SMG mode as well as the assault rifle mode, just so you can kind of compare the two in a more realistic situation, because most of the time you're only firing about 10 rounds to get a kill. So that pretty much covers it for the stats of the base RPR in both SMG as well as assault rifle mode. For me personally, I tend to lean a little bit more towards the assault rifle mode with this gun, but I will swap to that SMG mode if I'm going to clear out a building or something along those lines. So now let's get into the variants of the RPR. And first up we have a common variant called the cheap shot, and there's also one called the sled shot, and that one is identical to this one. It was just part of our holiday bonus and it's got like a permanent camo on it. These variants give us the lowrider weapon perk, which just reduces our hipfire spread by 20% while we're sliding. This one is just slightly better than the base RPR, and I wouldn't normally use this unless you're going for those slide kill camos. Getting into our second common, we have the stabilizer, and this is one of my personal favorites as far as it being a common. I think it's very underrated. This one gives you the focus weapon perk, which gives you a 50% reduction to your idle sway, and this is most noticeable in the assault rifle mode. In the SMG mode, it's probably not going to do anything for you, but in AR mode, it's definitely noticeable when you're trying to pick those guys off at those mid to somewhat longer ranges. Getting into the next one, we've got a rare variant called the Revenant. This one gives you refund, and with refund, missed bullets can return into your ammo stock. And it also gives you readiness, which allows you to reload faster when your magazine is completely empty. With refund, I did a bunch of testing on this. For every shot that you miss, it looks like we have a 20 to 25% chance that you'll get that bullet back. But what a lot of people don't realize, this doesn't go straight back into your magazine that you're using, it goes into your total ammo stockpile. So it's a pretty interesting weapon perk, but at the same time, it's not quite as useful as a lot of people may think it is. As for readiness, we've seen this before. As long as you're completely emptying your magazine, your reload speed is going to be increased by 40%. Your standard reload speed, though, is not impacted whatsoever. Moving on to our next variant, we've got a legendary one called the Fission, and this is a nuclear variant. This one's relatively new, and with this one, we get the nuclear weapon perk, obviously, so if you get a 25 kill streak with the gun, you will drop a deatomizer strike. And it also gives you sharpshooter, which gives you a 5% increase to your damage range. This one's pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. If you want to get a nuke with the RPR, this is your only option. Getting into our second legendary variant to the RPR, we've got the Modular. And with the Modular, you get Roll the Dice, and with Roll the Dice, you gain one random attachment every time you spawn. And in addition to that, we get Stability, which reduces your view kick by 3%. Keep in mind, this does stack with Foregrip. Foregrip gives you a 7% reduction, so if you combine these, you get a total of a 10% reduction to your view kick. Overall, with the Modular, I really like the Stability weapon perk, but I'm not a fan of Roll the Dice. Now, a lot of the times, Roll the Dice is just a great bonus, because it gives you an attachment that may or may not be helping you, but sometimes it gives you an attachment that you simply don't want. It's just not working with your particular playstyle, and it just might get in the way. A big example of this is if you're trying to use the assault rifle mode and you're trying to keep as much of that 3-shot kill range as possible, it might just pop a suppressor on there for you, and now you suddenly have to adjust your playstyle because you're losing a lot of your range. That's not to say that you can't adjust your playstyle for this, but I just don't like the random factor that this adds to the gun. Most of the time though, I will say it is going to give you a bonus attachment that you will actually appreciate. Moving on to our first epic variant of the RPR, we've got the Bosuzoku. I really hope I said that right. I never know how to say it, but either way, with this one, we get below the belt, and with below the belt, we get bonus damage towards the groin instead of headshots, which is a really weird and interesting weapon perk. And once again, we also get stability. So with below the belt, essentially what it does is it removes the headshot multiplier, which isn't really a big loss because, like I said earlier, headshots are essentially useless on this gun, but it makes our groin multiplier 1.35. So it doesn't just replace the groin with a standard headshot multiplier, it gives it essentially like a hollow point headshot multiplier. So having a look at the SMG groin shots with the Bosuzoku, we get a damage profile of 40, 31, 25, 20. This means that landing just one groin shot out of all of your other shots will reduce the number of shots it takes to kill by 1 at every single one of the ranges in SMG mode. So you can clearly see just how valuable this variant can be. It's much better than headshots in SMG mode. Once we get into the assault rifle mode, it's a little bit of a different story. Within the 3-shot kill range, it's still going to take 3 groin shots to get a kill in core game modes, but once you get to that 4-shot kill range, just 1 groin shot as well as 2 other body shots will end up being a kill. So it does extend that 3-shot kill potential out as long as one of those shots hits the groin. Another thing that's important to point out with this is it's much more valuable than headshots in the sense that you don't really have to worry about flinch and recoil nearly as much when you're going for groin shots rather than headshots. Because with a headshot, if you get flinched upwards, you're now above your enemy's head and you're shooting the air above them. With the groin shots, on the other hand, if you get flinched up or if the recoil takes you up, you're still into their body and you're still dealing damage to them. So the Bosuzoku is a very, very solid variant. Unfortunately, for those of you guys looking for the Bosuzoku and you don't see it with all the other variants, this is a Quartermaster Collection only variant at this point in the game's life cycle, and therefore it can only be won through supply drop luck. You can't craft this variant at this point in the game's life cycle. That's not to say that you won't be able to craft this in the future, but as it is right now, supply drops are the only way to get it. So finally, let's move on to the last epic variant, and this is the Ripper. The Ripper variant is actually a completely different gun model. It's modeled after the Ghost's Ripper, which is really interesting to see. It brings back a little bit of that nostalgia, and it also shows up in the kill feed the same way as well, so it doesn't look like the normal RPR in the kill feed, and I think that's really cool that they did that this way. With the Ripper, you get Reckless, which increases your fire rate, and you get Focus, which reduces your idle sway by 50%. So, with Reckless, this is where there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of people are confused about this, a lot of people are wondering about this. How does Reckless work exactly on the Ripper? Well, in SMG mode, it's pretty straightforward. It increases your fire rate from 909 rounds per minute all the way up to 954 rounds per minute, and this is definitely noticeable. But the big question is, does this affect the assault rifle mode? I've had tons of people insisting this absolutely does, and a lot of other people saying no, it's exactly the same. Well, thanks to COD Ghost 619, one of my followers, he had the Ripper. I don't have it myself, but he had it, and he helped me out with this, so I was able to test this. The difference in fire rate between the Ripper in assault rifle mode and the base RPR in assault rifle mode is negligible. I fired a full magazine with both of these several times to make sure that there wasn't any weird frame rounding going on, and the difference in total fire time for that whole magazine was very consistently a 1 frame difference. This means that it's completely negligible. That 1 frame difference over the course of 32 rounds is never going to make the difference between life and death in any situation. So I can confidently say the fire rate on the Ripper in assault rifle mode is not impacted in any way that you'll ever notice by this weapon perk. Having said this, if you like to use the RPR in SMG mode, the Ripper is a great option. And also, let's not forget that focus weapon perk. This is very valuable, more so in the assault rifle mode rather than SMG mode. It's very valuable in this assault rifle mode, and therefore, even though you don't get the fire rate increase when you're in the AR mode with the Ripper, you still get the benefit of focus, and therefore it's still noticeably better than having the base RPR. So overall, out of all of the variants, I would say the top variants are going to be the epic variants this time around. That's not always the case, but in the case of the RPR, I think it's pretty clear that that Bosuzoku is very powerful in core game modes because it's reducing the number of shots it's going to take to kill, as long as you're hitting them in the groin. And with the Ripper, that increase of the fire rate in SMG mode is excellent, and that focus weapon perk definitely helps the AR mode. So these are definitely the top 2 variants for the RPR Evo, in my opinion. As for attachments on the RPR Evo, My favorite attachments to be running are going to be quick draw, obviously, same as pretty much every gun aside from shotguns. I'm always using quick draw. Extended mags I really like sometimes just because that rate of fire is so high in the SMG mode that you burn through ammo very quickly if you are using it in the SMG mode at all. Stock is an excellent choice if I'm planning to play a little bit more in the assault rifle mode because you still get that SMG mobility, but you get assault rifle power. And finally, I really like using suppressor, but not all the time. More so when I tend to be leaning a bit towards the SMG mode, but maybe I'll just use the assault rifle mode a little bit. It really depends with that one. Just realize if you're running that suppressor, you are reducing your 3-shot kill potential from your AR by quite a bit. Also, another thing to point out is this is one of my favorite guns to use in hardcore game modes. I just avoid the SMG mode altogether. I only keep it in assault rifle mode, but it's going to be a one-shot kill at all ranges in hardcore as long as you're not shooting through something. So there we have it. That's going to wrap it up for the RPR Evo. I'm really interested to know in the comment section below, which mode of the RPR do you prefer? Do you like it in SMG mode, assault rifle mode, or is it relatively balanced just based on the situation for you? If you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, we've covered all of the assault rifles and most of the SMGs now. I think we just have the HVR to cover, and then we'll be moving on to most likely LMGs after that. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.